All right, welcome to the CXM Experience. And as always, I am your host, Grad Kahn, CXO, Chief Experience Officer at Sprinklr. And today is going to be a really awesome show because I have an old friend and someone who I have not talked to that much in the last couple of years, even though ironically we both live in the same city now. So
Right.
I saw David so many times more when I lived in Seattle than when I actually moved to New York. But I want to welcome today David Feinberg. And David is the Senior VP and the Chief Marketing and Communications Officer for the Mount Sinai Health System. And I knew David when we were both working together at New York Presbyterian Hospital. I was on the vendor side at Microsoft, building out the Connect system, and David was CMO at NYPH. And if you ever wonder why New York Presbyterian has got the word New York kind of together, crammed together with a hyphen, that's David's fault.
I think I can explain that.
Yeah, anyway, I know. You know what? It doesn't matter. It's in the past. They can't change it now. They can't change it now. I go to Columbia Doctors, and so I see NYPH stuff still all the time, and still interact with a lot of the systems that we built, and I get a little small chuckle every time I see that stuff. So anyway, welcome. And you've been a healthcare marketing executive for a lot of your career, although you were actually at Procter & Gamble earlier in your career, so we share that in common. But I don't really want to talk about where we work and stuff as much. I really want to talk about sort of your theories of marketing. Always a lot of people get good nuggets of advice. Sometimes a lot of like new in career people are listening, so they're always wondering like, what does it take to become a CMO? I always tell them, before you ask for something, make sure you really want it.
That's for sure. That's for sure.
Because you have, and we're not going to get into this today, but you have had some of the craziest experiences I've ever heard. Like the abuse that you have taken from doctors is just extraordinary. You are one tough. You're one tough
Oh,
mutter,
thank
man.
you, Grad. That's very flattering.
You are super tough. Anyway, so let me start just to kind of an icebreaker. One of my favorite things about marketing is that I'm going to ask this question, which is, how do you define marketing? Okay. And one of my favorite things about marketing is I'm pretty sure that I've never heard the same answer to this question ever. And I can take a room of 50 people and ask them to define marketing, and I'll have 50 different replies. So everyone's got a slightly different take on it, which makes it I think part of what makes it kind of complicated. So let's start with that, because I know you've got kind of a pretty well thought out definition of it. And take me through how you define marketing.
So funny you should ask. We just went through an exploration on this myself. I went through an exploration on this. I was asked to give a lecture up at, and I'll drop a name, up at Harvard School of Public Health. Excuse me. Yeah, a Harvard lecturer. Okay.
Can you still do this podcast, or do you have to go to Harvard right now?
Okay. No, for sure. I'm not official faculty. And a good friend of mine asked me to speak to this class of healthcare executives, and she gave me the very broad definition. Tell them what you do; they're going to love to hear what you do. And then I had to actually think about it and kind of define it. And part of that is defining what is the role of marketing and these are mostly doctors. And so, as you alluded to, I've gotten a lot of interesting interactions with physicians, because the concepts of marketing, and there may be something here in Myers-Briggs or whatever, but they have trouble thinking about marketing as anything other than sales, and they don't really understand the difference. So I've spent a lot of time in my career working with these incredibly smart people. Somebody said to me, you're talking to people, there's nobody who's gotten a crooked letter, on their transcript when you're dealing with places like Mount Sinai or Columbia or Cornell or all these fancy Harvard, all these fancy places. So what I try to do is break it down and make it very simple. As you know, there are some really complicated marketing models, and I try to say, look, it really gets back basically what you're trying to do with marketing is to identify a target audience and help them interact with you in ways that are helpful to them and to your business or brand, and to manage that interaction. That's I know that's maybe overly simplistic, but it's how I like to think about it. So who are you talking to? What is it that you want to do either for them or with them? And then how do you manage the relationship so as to achieve that goal? And that in
like
essence
that.
is marketing.
That's
And then
a nice
you break it
definition.
down into its little pieces. But think about it broadly in its grandest scope. That's what it is. And that's how I like to think about it. It helps me focus our activities to make sure we're doing things that are productive. So I'm always asking my team, what are we doing to advance that relationship? And
I love that.
how are
How
we
do you
thinking
measure
about
that? How do you measure the relationship?
Well, it gets back to what is it you're trying to do. So let's talk about the easiest thing and the one that people gravitate to immediately. We want to more transactions. That could be, downloading a piece of information we have. It could be coming in for an appointment, making an appointment. In the case of healthcare systems, that seems to be a big driver. How many different types of procedures are we doing? What have you? So then you're measuring volume, but you're also measuring leakage. You're measuring the flow of patients. How often do patients have to interact with you to see? So you're trying to just measure the number of interactions. And that's relatively simple. What's harder is to measure why, and that's important too. Like, what is it that's driving that interaction? Why are they coming to you? And here you get into all sorts of thoughts about segmentation. And some people come to you because it's convenient. Some people come to you because you're on their insurance plan. Other times, and this not to get too complicated in this, but it varies in terms of the type of procedure you're trying to have. In the case of healthcare, the more serious it is, the more tendency people have to shop. And do they have a choice? Sometimes people have a choice. Sometimes they don't. So there's a lot of things that affect that. And then on a broader basis, when we talk about attitudes and beliefs, we do kind of the usual. I try to keep it simple, but we do kind of the usual, net promoter score versions of net promoter score, which frankly, I got a kick out of that when that came about, because it's like we've always thought about that, but then somebody put a name to it, and then somebody branded it, and somebody wanted to the specific definition. Basically, it's, will people recommend you, and will they come back to you, right? And how does that vary across the people you're trying to talk about? And again, it depends on the type of interaction you're talking about. So again, these are the types of things you can measure with pretty traditional research, I think.
And yeah, so you're looking at customer feedback as kind of a core measure of the relationship. And
Absolutely.
you've got there's NPS, that's one. There's also in healthcare, there's a unique thing, which is this Press Ganey score.
Yes, we measure that.
With the, and the HCAP score, which has got a pretty big impact on hospital revenue. Do you want to? How do you feel? What kind of sense of responsibility do you have around the HCAP score, and how do you look at it?
We do look at it. So we're not. It's more of a measure than it is something we're responsible for, I would say, because it relates to the patient experience, which we get involved with, and we try to drive it, and we try to improve it. But I don't control it. I don't really control what happens at the bedside. But we're very much involved with that group, because I can't. My ultimate job here is to build the brand, and the brand can't get better than the product. So we really look very closely at that interaction and see what we can do to improve that, given what product we're putting out there. And mostly it's good. Mostly it's and sometimes it's fabulous.
Mount Sinai, yeah, no one's gonna,
yeah. But we have our issues. We really do, and we're working on them. There's a lot of EMR integration. There's a lot of we're still way too many people are filling out paperwork way too often, for example. And I was just on the phone yesterday with our we have a new head of IT, new chief information officer, and she and I are hell bent for leather to solve those problems so that we can really give a much better customer experience and therefore build the brand.
Well, that's cool. And that partnership with IT is something you've always been really good at, actually.
Thank you.
That's something that
I believe in it. It's critical.
I think you've always gone further towards the product than I see a lot of marketers. Like, I get your point about, the marketing can't be better than the product, although many times it is.
Yes, ultimately,
there's a lot of examples. That's true.
That's fair.
But it shouldn't be, right? It's actually really good marketing can kill a bad product faster, because people all get excited and they try it, and then the next thing hilarity ensues. But I do think that you've always done a good job of trying to get close to that patient experience, and wherever marketing can help, that's something you've always taken. I feel like you've taken a lot of ownership on that. It is interesting because I've got the Press Ganey questionnaire. I just had knee surgery. I'm sure everyone's sick and tired of hearing me talking about it, but I just had knee surgery, and so I had I did it at HSS, okay, and Dr. Alchek did my knee, and it was a fantastic surgery. My knee feels amazing. I was literally out of pain as I was waking up. When I was waking up, I noticed the pain was gone, and I'd just been in surgery. But there were a couple little things in the experience that had nothing to do with Dr. Alchek, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they were all like kind of HSS kind of customer throughput issues that I'm nervous. I don't really want, I think I'm not going to do anything in the HCAP score. I'm just going to give them like top scores all the way down because I don't want to bing them for that. But I have told them, hey, you know, when you asked me if I had any allergies and I said I had a peanut allergy, maybe you shouldn't have given me peanuts when you're discharging me. Like, what is that? What are you trying to tell me? You're trying to tell me, like, I know your knee's feeling good, but you probably should, you know, take an early powder here, dude.
So a little inside baseball. If, you know, that's one, and look, I have tremendous admiration for HSS, but
they're amazing.
They're a specialty hospital. We're a general hospital. We do that stuff too, and many other things. But one of the things that you get into with specialty hospitals is, so that's not my job. So for example, if you had an allergic reaction to the peanuts, they wouldn't see you. You'd have to go someplace else.
Good point. Yeah,
I'm laughing about it, but it's true. It's like that
would have been hilarious.
You know, that would not have been hilarious. You know, the place where I used to work, you would have to go next door to
oh my God, wheeled into another hospital.
Or an ED, or an ED. And,
but I do feel like marketing could have been part of that. You know, I think that, you know, hey, a patient exit package or a patient, you know, essentially it was like a little gift package. They had a little bag, a little bit of tissue in it. Like, it was really kind of cool. It just included ingredients that would kill me. But besides that, the intent of it was really cool and the package was really nice. But that seemed almost like marketing. That was like way past the sort of patient experience part. And again, you know, my knee is almost fully recovered now, and it's been amazing. In fact, it's been such a great experience that my right knee, which I injured, actually Kevin O'Brien injured it. So there's this bastard named Kevin O'Brien who went to McGee High School with me. And if you're listening, Kevin, you know, do not relax, okay? You're still on my list, okay? And he hit me from behind in the last week of school and rotated me 180 degrees on my knee and destroyed my right kney. And it's never been right. And so
that's why you're not a running back, right? That's why you never had an NFL career.
That's the reason. Yeah.
Yes.
That wasn't necessary. I thought you liked me. That was
I do like you. A lot.
Anyway, so and every time, like, the technology for knees, because kept advancing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And every time it was like, maybe now I could get it fixed properly because it's really terrible, very loose, and I don't have an ACL in my right knee. It's not quite there, you know, or I'm like too old or whatever. Like, I'm never quite until now. And so Dr. Alchek, when he was going through everything, and this is good upsell. This is good upsells technique too. And so he does this amazing job on my left knee, and the whole thing went incredibly well. And he took me through it all and stuff. And then and he's like, "So about that right knee?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "We should fix that because you're gonna roll over on it at some point, and then you'll be back in here for more meniscus repair. But we really need to fix that ACL." And so I'm going in for an MRI tomorrow, and we're getting geared up to do the right knee.
Fantastic! I've had ACL repair myself, so it's great.
Well, they've changed it. You know, they used to do it with cadaver. They don't do that anymore. What they do is there's this is like way off topic. There's a vestigial hamstring in our legs that we don't use. That's on the inside of the thigh. And so they remove that and then they put that in your knee as your ACL. Isn't that cool?
I don't know. I had one done. I'll be honest with you. I think they did that. This was years ago. This was like 20 years ago. And I don't remember them talking about cadaver. So they said, we're going to take something and we're going to reuse it and it's going to be fine. And it has been. So
they have been doing that. But the thing is, like, I said, well, what's my leg going to look like after they remove, like, and there'll be 3 little holes.
Yeah.
And just like there's 2 little holes in my left right knee. He's like, you're not going to even know. Like, 6 months later, you're not even going to be able to find them. It's like, incredible. That's amazing. That is amazing. Anyway, so
one of
let's
the
come
things,
back to
just to get back to topic, one of the things I'll drift off of this back into topic. So one of the things I do, and they've really accepted this, maybe because I'm now where they have to maybe, but they're very polite. So whenever I'm a customer, I come back and I tell them what's going on. And it's been at least here, that's been a really great reaction. So I had a procedure and I went through and I said, here's all the things that create touch point problems that are changeable.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome.
Not be within the realm of all right, like why this or why this, and can we fix everything from you walk into some places and one of the things that is worse in healthcare is over signage, and I'm also responsible for signage, right, and
I mean, like
wayfinding, whatever.
wayfinding in the
Yeah,
hospital.
wayfinding
Right.
that,
Yeah.
but in the
Over
office
signage? What does that
setting,
mean?
here's a good example. If you have that notice, you have to stay 6 feet apart.
Hmm.
So instead of putting on one prominent wall, they put them everywhere. Like it's like I get it, right? I'm seeing the same thing. Or wash your hands. Like one office I went into, and I counted within my eye shot of where I was sitting in the office, you could see the same notice 6 different times. And what it does, it creates clutter. And actually, what it does is it doesn't help the communication, because there's so much noise, you don't see it anymore. It becomes background. Rather than having one good sign, they got 6 crummy signs. Right. So these are the kinds of things that we can, and I have a team that helps with signs, and they can go around, they can clean it up and kind of fix it and improve that experience, so that we're creating a better branded experience that's more in keeping with the image we're trying to project.
So you've got NPS, you've got HCAHPS and Press Ganey, you've got your own secret shopper, or not so secret shopper, I guess, but I'm sure they're spending. I mean, I would assume you would have an excellent experience at any moment in time at Mount Sinai, hopefully, but maybe not. But I think they're going to pay attention to you, but you're still going to have feedback. How about like just comments out there? People talking on forums, people on Facebook,
well, we're
and
listening.
Twitter. You're listening.
Yeah,
okay.
We have a service we use to listen. I think we're not as far ahead in reputation management as I'd like us to be, candidly. We want to do a better job, but we're certainly always monitoring what people are saying about us. Do
you respond?
On occasion. It depends on
no.
It depends on what the thing is. If it's something medical, if somebody has a medical problem, we respond. We say, look, like, can we take it offline? Can we help you? We don't want anybody to have it. If it's just a general comment, we tend not to, but it's something we're thinking about. I mean, it's also a matter of, with us, I know a lot of people have scale, so we're not alone in that, but the sheer number of interactions that we have is mind-blowing. So we have to make sure if we do respond, we can respond well, and we just have to make sure we have the scale to do what we need to do.
Well, this is just for a second. Dignity Health's doing some incredible stuff, like mind-blowing stuff in this area. So if you ever want to just bounce some ideas off, we can connect you with them, and they can just tell you, like, they've literally written a whole book on how to do it. I actually got it up on my screen right now. Actually, what's it called?
They're very impressive.
Yeah, they have Reputation and Community Management Manual.
Wow.
For a common spirit. And it's a massive document that they've written. It's an amazing piece of work. I cannot share it directly with you because it's confidential for them.
Right.
But they are certainly, I know they would be delighted to sort of talk to you in detail. I can connect you with the people who lead that team.
I have a lot of respect and admiration for that organization.
Dignity is amazing because what they've done, I think they've done 3 things incredibly well. One is that they've taken a lot of disparate systems and they're pulling them together. To be able to manage that across that many silos in healthcare, which is already complicated enough in a single system. Really impressive, super impressive. The second thing they've done is they've pushed really hard on the human aspect of healthcare, from their advertising to the way they're managing reputation to the way they interact with people. So they've taken this, I think, a very in their marketing perspective. If you were to take your definition of creating a relationship, they're basing their relationship on the emotional connection and how healthcare changes your life, right? So that in good, well done, right? Obviously, poorly done also changes your life and not in a good way. And then the third thing that they've done, which I think is really amazing, is they've built an incredibly stable financial foundation. That's not to be scoffed at. Like their financial management and the financial controls and the way they run it gives them, there's an old saying, no money, no mission. Right. And so they've extended their ability to supply mission by being able to manage their money. And it's incredible, actually. All right. So let me ask you one more question. And this will be for maybe sort of folks who are thinking about going into marketing or are in marketing and wondering why they're in marketing or like there was an old expression about advertising. And this comes back from the 60s. which is, at one point, advertising professionals were ranked very low in professions that people respected or trusted. So I think they were like just one tick above politicians.
Okay.
And
used car salesman.
Yeah. Well, yeah, right. Exactly. The bottom of the pile. Right. And the joke was, please don't tell my mother that I work in advertising, because, I'd rather her be comforted by what she thinks I do. What does she think you do? Well, I told her I play the piano in a whorehouse. I'd rather her think that than think that I'm in advertising. Like, oh boy, things are going to get crazy if she finds out the truth. Okay. And so, you've never heard that before?
No, I hadn't heard that.
Really? Wow, that's like,
yeah.
That's like, my mom wanted me to be a doctor so badly. Like, she's still holding out a little hope, right? Every time I go into a hospital, I think she hopes I accidentally pick up a scalpel and demonstrate some kind of like, my hands are still really steady. She said, "You still got steady hands." But then I remember telling her I was going into business school, and the look on her face was like, I was like, I had destroyed all her dreams. It was a tough moment.
Right.
So why did you go into marketing? Because there's another thing that I also tell people, because I get asked all the time, "Hey, I want to go into marketing. I want to be in marketing." And I'm like, why would you want to do that? Like, can you do anything else? Like, is there anything else that you've ever demonstrated any confidence for in any way? Like, really good at video games or anything else that you can do that you could possibly think of potentially making some money at versus marketing? Because I think what makes marketing really challenging is that it is a difficult, challenging profession with a lot of moving parts, and you have to work across a lot of different silos. So super collaborative, and everybody thinks that they can do it, and everyone thinks they can do it better than you, right?
Right.
And so it is like a brutal job, right? So what made you decide to go into marketing, and what keeps you staying in marketing? What gets you up every morning? What makes you still keep the dream alive? What's your secret there?
That's a great question. I'll allude to the latter, and then I'll start the former and get back to the second part of your question. I still am amazed at how energized I get. After all these years, I still am interested. I have no interest in stopping, so I still get jazzed by it. So what made me go into marketing? It's a combination of what I thought I could do and what I knew I couldn't, right? So I decided to go to business school undergrad, really because, I figured it'd be a good background for whatever it is I wanted to do. And eventually I wanted to go to law school. And at some point in the undergrad curriculum, you take a marketing course. And I'm going, this is really interesting. I didn't even know what marketing was, to be honest with you. And I took the intro to the course, and I was just fascinated by the definitions and what it could do. I just was drawn to it. And on the other end I was not great at the other stuff. Like, accounting, I was terrible. Like, I could, I'll never forget statistics. I'm old enough to know when having a calculator was a big deal, right? And they weren't cheap. And it was very controversial whether you could use a calculator or not. So when I took statistics, I had to take a year of statistics. The first semester I got a C, and then they let you use calculators, and I got an A, right? Because I just couldn't. It just didn't work for me in finance. And so even though I had an economics degree undergrad, the pure quantitative stuff that was just about numbers, I was not as suited for. But then when I took the management courses and the marketing courses, I did really well. So I said, maybe I should do the things I'm good at. And also I was fundamentally fascinated about, so it's kind of like play to your strengths. I don't know if you know about, have you heard about strength finders? You probably have, so it was I backed into that. I said, let me play into my strengths. So that was part of it. And then also I felt that with marketing, you could be a generalist. You could do a lot. You had to do a lot of different things. It wasn't going to, like, accounting to me was like way too narrow. It's just and even finance. So I was just drawn to it. So that was really why I did it. And I say to my team, by the way, and we're, like I said, we're blessed to be in there's no question about our mission, right? We don't have to worry about do we have a mission? And I say to my team, marketing saves lives. And the reason is that we are helping people discover the care that they need and helping them get access to that care. So it's a powerful outcome when we do it well. And we've seen this and we get this, and like people find out about stuff. And so I want them to have that sense of mission, because when you're in an organization like us, where the people are actually doing the operations like you had, how do you feel your role? How do you feel like a part of that, as opposed to just putting out brochures or doing websites or whatever? And so we put it into that broader context. So what keeps me going is that it's ever changing. Like I'm old enough to remember when there were basically 3 channels, right? And so you could buy a show, and
well,
you
4
could
channels,
reach,
right? There was
four.
ABC, CBS, NBC,
ABC,
and
NBC,
then
CBS,
public.
and then public. Oh, 4. Okay, and then eventually Fox came out. But I remember a time when you could buy a show on television and reach a third of the viewing public with one show.
Right.
And we can't, and with numbers or audience numbers in the 20 millions back when the country was 2/3 the size it is now, and you were reaching 10 times as many people as are considered a good audience today with a single vehicle, right? And even then we didn't think it was simple, right? But now with the plethora, it's just so that fascinates me. And then I've moved around a fair amount, both voluntarily and sometimes involuntarily, and now here I think this is a great platform, being where I am, to use the accumulated skills I've had for an organization. Mount Sinai has not been a marketing-oriented organization, so I've had actually a theme. When I came to New York Presbyterian, I was there there was a merger, and I was their first marketing executive. And now here at Mount Sinai, even though they've had marketing executives before me, they've never had anybody with my background or experience.
Oh, neat.
So
okay.
I'm sort of reinventing it for Mount Sinai. So starting from scratch. So that's kind of exciting too. So anyway, that's a long-winded way of saying I love
that's
what
fantastic.
I do.
Well, marketing saves lives. Well, what a great way to drive mission on the team. We're gonna kind of close on that. I will say I'm going to be in New York next week.
Let's get
I'm vaccinated, so we
I
can
am
get
too.
together. We can kiss and everything.
Double vaccinated.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So let's wrap this up. But David, this was an amazing session. Marketing saves lives. I'm going to keep that with me all day and figure out how I can get my team to think that way too. A little bit of a longer road for us, but I'm sure there's some way to get there. And so, but no, it really is it is a powerful idea, and I think it's much better than get the brochure out by Thursday. So I think
right,
definitely more operating.
Right. Why is our NPS score too
juice
low?
there?
Yeah.
No, it's
ultimately
awesome. Well,
I'd
it was
love
great
to catch up, and this is great
talking.
that we got connected. And also, I hope this was helpful to people, and if not, I hope it was. And I'm happy to do other sessions about other topics.
Yeah, well, we often get comments,
right?
And so we'll sort of let's do a part 2 when we kind of get that feedback.
If
I
people are interested,
that people where a lot of the energy is these days is on this relationship idea that you talked about. There's a lot of energy around how do I measure that? How do I track that? How do I manage that? How do I look at the more formal research-based sort of structured, solicited feedback, and how do I incorporate the less formal, unstructured, unsolicited feedback, which is out there as well. And then the other, I think, reputational and relationship issue is that no consumer sits alone anymore. Right. So, as I actually went to many, many different knee doctors before I found Dr. Alchek, and same thing, I just had face surgery, same thing, I went through a whole bunch of different people. And it wasn't just the time I spent with the physician, it was all the things that I read about them from other people who'd seen
he's got
them.
About as good a reputation as you
Dr.
can
Alchek's impeccable, right? But and it was actually interesting to see how some of these other physicians had not managed their online reputation very well. And there was some brutal stuff out there. It was just terrifying. And so that's something I think we've got to all get sort of locked into. And I've not yet met a marketer who's not sort of struggling with that. And do I create a reputation score? Where do I spend my money? Should I spend more here, more there? All that kind of stuff. We could dig into that. And I think you're in the middle of a very interesting one, because there's so many things like health grades and health scores and people giving feedback. There's formal systems, informal systems. There's a lot of that kind of measurement going on, and you're in a very measured industry. So I think you've got a lot to offer us there. So I'll definitely hit you up for us sort of a part 2. But that's it for today.
Love to do it. Can talk to you anytime. Anyway, thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, David.
Appreciate it. Hope it was helpful, and take care.
Well, I want to thank David Feinberg, Senior VP and Chief Marketing and Communications Officer for Mount Sinai Health System. And I am Brad Kahn, CXO at Sprinkler. This has been the CXM Experience, and we will talk to you next time.